On today's show, 3 questions. Number 1, how big is Bitcoin really? Number 2, what is an accredited investor? And number 3, is FinCen BOI even a thing anymore? Welcome to Dentist Money's 2 cents, where we help dentists navigate all the noise. I'm Matt.
And I'm Rabih.
Yeah, you are. Rabih, just you and me again. And we're going to start here, Rabih. I've learned a lot this week. I've learned a lot. And just even more just this morning, before we went on the show. So I walk in this morning, for those of you that want to hear what's going on, the DA headquarters. I walk in this morning and we're talking about 2 cents, and I say, Rabih, I have something to start with. I'm going to talk about how the marketing team wrecked me earlier this week in our content meeting. And you immediately, so here's the first thing I learned. Don't say that and keep it vague, because you open the door for someone to wreck you even more, because you immediately say, oh, is it because the videos on Instagram promoting the podcast? And I was like,
And it's
what?
not about that. And it's not
No.
about that.
And I'm like, wait, what's wrong with my videos? And then you go, oh, is it the PDA photos? Is it the photos from PDA? I'm like, no. So I'm learning that there's more to apparently that I should be embarrassed by. But now let me tell you what it actually was about. And then you just go, I'm going to shut my mouth.
Third guess? No,
you want to go for a third guess? Okay. So this is the main thing I learned this week, that I did not know that Fitbits were lame. Okay. I did not know this. Did you know this, Rabih?
No.
Okay. I've learned that I am now of the age. I'm officially in that dad mode middle age that I genuinely don't even know how lame I am. I've learned this. So
why are they lame?
I don't know, but the cool people in the office apparently are telling me it's lame. So I'll give you the quick story. We're in the content meeting. We're planning out stuff for the end of this year and going into Q1 of 2025. We're planning it all out. And we really want to we have this idea that'll come out next year to talk about weird fitness, right? Relating a fitness topic we have specifically, Ryan and I wanted to talk about, and how it relates to investing in money and all this. And I tell Ryan, I say, Ryan, and I'm so excited, and I'm so genuinely excited. I say, Ryan, this is awesome because I just got a Fitbit. Okay. Well, we're in the content meeting, which includes our marketing team. Shout out Becky, Studi, and Michelle. You are amazing. We love you. Although I love you less after the other day. They start laughing. They start giggling. Okay. It starts at a low giggle and then it grows. The giggle turns into heads thrown back, just completely laughing as I'm like looking there so surprised, saying, wait, what's wrong with Fitbits? Well, come to find out, Rabih, and I want some support out there. Fellow Fitbitters, if you're a Fitbitter, support me. Apparently they're lame and they were making fun of me. And I've come to find out they're very much a dad thing, like a middle-aged or older dad thing. This is a thing.
They?
I don't know.
I thought the whole industry
shocked as you
is
are, Rabih.
Going towards, let's track
wearables,
your data and how healthy you are, what's your sleep quality, how many steps you take.
Yes.
Is it Fitbit the brand or just the idea of having a wearable?
Apparently it's Fitbit specifically. So I am starting.
An Apple Watch is fine. A Whoop is fine.
Apparently an Apple Watch is fine. Shout out Justin. He's got a Whoop. I just wanted to get back to tracking some data and getting more scientific Rabih style in my fitness. I continually work out and do all that stuff. But I'm like, I got to get back on track. I want to start just taking this more serious going into 2025. So I go on Google and I just look up some wearable technology to like help me start tracking some better data. And Fitbit comes up and I'm like, oh, this is $60. This seems great. I buy it. Fitbit seems cool. And I didn't even think it was cool. I just was like, at worst, it's neutral. It's an innocuous item, but apparently it's not, Rabih. So now I am being made fun of. And then I got triple down on this morning for apparently my podcast videos that on Instagram were lame. My PDA promotional stuff for speaking at their summit is lame. Like I am just getting hammered this week. I'm just getting hammered. I don't know what to do.
The way I think of it, Matt, you carve your own way, and people are always amazed by how awesome you are. Just think of it that way.
You know what? Thank you for that save right there. Yeah, I just don't know if I realize how lame I am. I just am like so oblivious. This is the definition of ignorance is bliss. But I went into that meeting, I got bamboozled. I completely got caught off guard. I was just like so excited about it. Like, guys, I got a Fitbit. and they just wrecked me. They laughed for a solid couple of minutes. So anyway,
But now you're still going to be using your Fitbit, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not even ashamed. I'm actually defiantly going to wear it now, and I'm going to talk about it more. And if you take nothing else from this, if you turn this podcast off after this, or if you already have, I'm sorry, but if you are out there listening and you are a fellow Fitbitter, please go to our Facebook group, comment on Spotify, show your support for we're going to build a Fitbit community.
I thought you were going to ask them to vote for the podcast.
That we're going to do that as well. We're going to do that as well. Vote for the podcast on Dentwoo. Go to my apparently lame video, according to Rabih. Go to Instagram. We have we're up for best podcast, best dental podcast. Go show your support and vote for that. So sorry for the longer extra intro today, but I had to defend myself. I'm not even ashamed, Rabih. I'm going to wear my Fitbit proudly. Moving on. Number one.
I too have a Fitbit. So
Do you?
Yeah, but I haven't used it in a couple of years. But I still
put it
have
on,
my
Rabih.
Fitbit.
Wear your Fitbit proudly.
Okay.
Wear your Fitbit proudly. We're going to get this show sponsored by Fitbit. Okay, here we go. Number one, how big is Bitcoin really, Rabih?
Yes. So it looks like the market has been boring, which is what we like it to be. That's why it's been going up. We got last week data about inflation, unchanged. Unemployment this morning, unchanged, 4.2. We added a couple of jobs, around 227,000 for November. This balances out the bad October due to strikes, etc. Nothing is happening in the market, and that's good news.
Is everyone just kind of asleep before Christmas, or just kind of like hanging out?
Yeah, we expect it to be this way until next year, except in 2 weeks when the Federal Reserve meets and they cut interest rates and give us economic projections. But other than that, honestly, the market is snoozing. But on the other side of the world, we've got Bitcoin, which I think this is not going to be news to anyone, but it hit 100K on Wednesday and then retracted back from it. But it broke through the $100,000 level, which is more of a psychological level. A lot of debates online between Bitcoin supporters and deniers on the validity of this whole cryptocurrency, and it kind of gave points to one side of the argument. So Bitcoin got to 100K, and a lot of numbers started being thrown around, right? Like, oh, it's gonna get to 260K, 200K, $500,000, $1 million. 10 million. It's going to go back to zero. And I was like, we do not know where the price is going to go. But for fun, let me go and collect some data related to Bitcoin, related to its trading volume, where it's getting traded, related to its market cap, how much has been mined. And let's just give the people the big picture, because the market's calm, and let's have some fun with data. This is something only I would say.
You're going to get you a t-shirt that says, let's have some fun with data. Said no one ever except for Rabih Dimachki.
So I got you some numbers to look at, Matt, and we'll start with volume. So just to give some background, pre-2023, in a sense, Bitcoin wasn't as regulated on Wall Street as it is now. Now we have ETFs that hold the Bitcoin, the spot Bitcoin. So it's tracking the immediate price of Bitcoin. It's not an ETF that is trying to, you're betting on the future price of a Bitcoin, aka future ETFs. It's a spot ETF holding the it's holding the Bitcoin itself as collateral, and it's mimicking it. So now recently we have two main platforms to trade the actual price. We're not talking about future prices, the actual price of Bitcoin. You can either go to like trading platforms. The most well-known of them is Coinbase. Open a digital wallet, have your tokens and buy crypto, including Bitcoin. Or you can go to Wall Street, open a brokerage account, and then buy an ETF that has a Bitcoin in it, right? And I wanted to do a comparison between the volume on each, because and this is kind of, I'm now showing my cards, but the whole idea of Bitcoin is it's a decentralized thing. It's out of the system, etc. But if most of the trading is done in a centralized place that Wall Street controls, how decentralized is it? This is what
it's owned by mostly billionaires.
That's owned by mostly billionaires. So the first data point is regarding the exchange trade volume on major Bitcoin exchanges. So we're talking about stuff like Coinbase. I'm giving you the numbers. So just to give you more of a visual in your mind, It was hovering at a certain level pre-November, and now this November it jumped up in terms of how many dollars of Bitcoin are being traded on a given day. And that's simply since, the election has happened, you've got an administration that's bullish on crypto, etc. So on those exchanges that are Bitcoin exchanges themselves, we were hovering around $500-600 million worth of Bitcoin a day, which is fine. And then it jumped up in November, and it's been hovering around the 1.4, $1.3 billion a day of Bitcoin. So very healthy volume, very strong volume, and people are definitely trading more Bitcoin, and it's reflecting by how it made the 100K. But focus on the numbers. We moved from like 400 billion, 400 million to 500 million to 1.3 billion. But if we look at Bitcoin ETFs, that are spot Bitcoin ETFs, we were hovering around 2.5 billion a day pre-November, and after November we jumped to around 6 billion a day. So in terms of all the volume that's being traded, it's all being traded on most of it, right? 80% of it is being traded on those ETFs that are, issued by Wall Street, by BlackRock, by Grayscale, by Fidelity,
It's
etc.
all centralized. Yeah.
All centralized, and it is not on Bitcoin. And I'm trying to take the example of gold because, and I'm going to loop this in, Jerome Powell had a conference, had a more of a meet and greet on the New York Times conference this week, and they asked him what he thinks of Bitcoin. And what he said is like, and I'm quoting, people use Bitcoin as a speculative asset. It's just like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. People are not using it as a form of payment or as a store of value. It's highly volatile. It's not a competitor for the dollar. It's really a competitor for the gold. So this is what Jerome Powell said. The market liked it. It went up, like Bitcoin prices went up 3% after he said that. But the whole idea is that just like there's a distinction between actually buying physical gold and hiding those under your mattress and buying a gold ETF and having exposure to that in your portfolio, the same argument can be made for Bitcoin. You can go and actually buy the coin in a digital wallet that has your own token that is secure, or you can buy it through an ETF and get exposure to the price movement. So for the Bitcoin supporters who are saying this is going to be the new regime, the new currency, this is what's going to hedge us from, a faltering dollar, the ETF, you're just going to get exposure to it. You need to have the Bitcoin itself to protect your money. But most of the trading that's been happening is happening on ETFs that only participate in the movement of the price. You are not entitled. You are entitled to shares of the ETFs. You're not entitled to Bitcoin itself, especially Bitcoin. Maybe in stocks and gold you can do it because you can create that delivery mechanism, but for a Bitcoin you can't do that delivery mechanism. They have to send them through a blockchain. So the whole fact that the majority of Bitcoin trading is happening on ETFs and not on trading exchanges tells you that most of the people buying and selling Bitcoin are there to participate in the price movement rather in the belief that they need to hold this as a safe haven in case of a faltering dollar, assuming that's the theory that it supports.
Yeah, those people though making money on it, on the price movement, will continue to make it based on the belief that is pervasive out there that this is eventually going to take over the system. And like that's the whole thing behind Bitcoin, right? Is that belief that I think the real big Bitcoin believers are saying this will eventually take over. Like this will be the thing, even though Jerome Powell's saying it, we all know. I mean, I guess I should say we don't know, but right now it's not looking like, it is not something that's viable. It hasn't been for years since its existence. It has not been a viable use of currency and exchange of goods and services. It's just not. It's
Absolutely
digital
not.
gold. It's digital gold. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a pejorative term. But it is. It's digital gold.
It's digital gold, and the analogy that I'm trying to make is like, how are you choosing to prove it? Since both gold and Bitcoin are like doomsday scenario asset to hold, right? Let's extrapolate. Let's go doomsday. World is ending. How do you function better? If you have a bunch of gold coins in your pocket, or if you have a bunch of gold ETF shares in your account? Which one will let you figure out survival? The same thing applies when you are trading just Bitcoin ETFs versus actually holding Bitcoin on an exchange. in a digital wallet. So that's the distinction I'm trying to make. And just the fact this happens with gold. More gold is being traded on ETFs than it is actually physical delivery of golds left and right. So just to keep an idea that this is getting decentralized into Wall Street, and I got you some good numbers to look at on top of that. So I picked up a list of 24 Bitcoin ETFs. Some of them hold the ETF itself. Some of them are leveraged, like 2 times, 3 times the daily movement of Bitcoin. What would you say is the total AUM under these 24 funds? Those are the largest 24 for Bitcoin. Just throw a number out there.
I would not even know. Let's say, are we in the trillions?
No, not yet.
But
it's actually 110 billion.
Okay, got it.
So the AUM out of these 24 funds is 110 billion. And we're saying there's a $110 billion pile. Every single day, a 6 billion movement within it is happening on those exchanges. So I'm like, just imagine the amount of money Wall Street is making just based off Bitcoin, which is an instrument that's supposed to work when Wall Street fails, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah. And Wall Street is taking it over.
It's fascinating. I was looking at expense ratios for these ETFs. You can find stuff as low as 0.2 percent, 20 basis points, which is kind of cheap. But you've got ETFs that are as high as 1.9 percent annualized. So I took a weighted average to see, just based off these $110 billion, how much is Wall Street making off Bitcoin? And expense ratios. I'm not talking about the
transaction costs,
bid-ask spread, money they make from order flow. I'm just looking at the money they're making from expense ratios. And the weighted average expense ratio is more of like 0.43%, which puts them at $481 billion. So think of it as $500 billion. No, hold on. 481 million, my bad. So $500 million.
Yeah.
No. But there's so many commas and zeros on the spreadsheet. It's so hard to follow. But around $500 million industry, just in terms of expense ratios coming in revenue for these Wall Street ETF, which is a whole thing about how money is made and why now Bitcoin is being more supported than just, the outlier currency that was out there. So I got these numbers now for how many Bitcoins are in existence, how many are left to be mined, what's the market cap of Bitcoin right now at $100,000 price per Bitcoin, and where does it rank compared to the Max 7? This is why I got you. Where do you think it ranks between the Max 7? And the Max 7, according to the latest data, especially Apple and Nvidia, they switch a lot. But Apple is at 3.6 trillion.
I was going to say Apple and Nvidia are $1 trillion.
Yeah, 3.6 trillion, 3.5 for Nvidia. Then you've got Microsoft at 3.2, Amazon at 2.3, Google is 2.1, and then Meta at 1.5 trillion, Tesla at 1.1 trillion. Those are the Max 7. And then the 8th company largest in the US is Berkshire Hathaway at 1 billion.
You mean 1 trillion?
1 trillion. So
we're just,
where do you think
the numbers we're talking about right now is just like, it doesn't even compute.
I know, huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
Let me just, if I give you how many Bitcoins are in existence, you'll be able to just multiply the numbers and get it. But at $100,000 per Bitcoin, the total amount of Bitcoins in existence is 19,894,493. Amount of Bitcoins left to be mined is 1.1 million, which means 95% of all the Bitcoins that the blockchain can create have been mined, right?
Out there, yeah.
And it just decays exponentially on how much Bitcoin you can mine in every single period of time. So it'll take a really long time just to get rid of that last 5%.
So are we at what, 1.9 trillion? Is that what it is?
We are at 1.9 trillion, which ranks Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was a company in the US market, it is the 6th largest company between Alphabet, which is Google, and Meta. So Google is the 5th company at 2.12 trillion, and then you'll get Bitcoin at 1.9, and then you've got Meta/Facebook at 1.5, then Tesla, then Berkshire. So it's just another argument for, is Bitcoin more of a just a bubble, or is there something more fundamental of it? We talked about how it's actually a tool that makes Wall Street so much money. That was like the first argument in my mind. The second argument over here, if we really think that markets are efficient, 100% efficient, and they reflect the value that is created, can we make sense of the statement that Bitcoin provides as much value to humanity and to the world as much as Google and Meta and Berkshire or Tesla? I'm talking about the companies that are below that market value, which fascinates me. Do you have anything before I go into the
Well,
last
I'm just
thing?
sitting here thinking about, outside of the value it creates, is just, if you think, you said it would be the 6th largest company in the world.
Yes.
In the Mag 7. And so just think about, when we just think of like the ability to continue to make money off of Bitcoin, you have to continue to believe that now at $1.9 trillion market cap, for it to double, well, now we're talking it's going close to $4 trillion market cap. Like, again, just, it's one thing to get onto like Amazon or Nvidia in 2010 when it was, we're talking 100 billion market cap or whatever it was. For it to double or triple or whatever, that story is not that outlandish. But to go from 1.9 trillion in market cap to 4 trillion in market cap, that story starts to become quite outlandish. So just saying, for it to double from where it is now, or even triple, or where people are saying it's going to possibly go, it seems a little bit outlandish to me.
It is. And I don't have this data shared with you, but you actually hit it right on the nail. This is what I'm getting at. So instead of looking at companies, I was like, let me take the GDP of the largest 17 countries in the world, right? And let me divide that by the number of Bitcoins available in existence and see what price should Bitcoin be at for it to be as big as that economy, right? Okay, so we've got the world GDP, which is around $105 trillion, which means Bitcoin has to actually be $5.3 million per Bitcoin for it to be 105. But as we go down through the list, it gets easier. I'm going to start with the US, which is the largest economy. The GDP is $27 trillion, right? This means the price of one Bitcoin should be 1.3 million to be the size of the US economy. So for whoever is saying Bitcoin will reach a million, I'm like, what world are we living in? Because that would be as big as the US economy, which is the largest economy in the world. Second largest is China, 17 trillion. It means Bitcoin needs to be at 890K per coin. And then you go down, you've got Japan, Germany, Japan, India, UK, etc. But then I wanted to get to number 10. Actually, we've got number 10 is Canada, number 11 is Russia, and number 12 is Mexico. For Bitcoin to be as big as the Mexican economy, which is the 12th largest economy in the world, well, it's already there. It should be only 90K a coin. So at 80K a coin, Bitcoin is now larger than Mexico's economy. So if you want to put Bitcoin as a country,
It's as
Bitcoin
big as
is
bigger
the
than Mexico.
12th. Bitcoin is the 12th largest country in the world,
Wow.
GDP wise, which is wild. The next one is Russia at 2.02 trillion, which means Bitcoin only has to be 101K. And then Canada is at 2.14 trillion, which means Bitcoin has to be 1.7. For Brazil, Bitcoin has to be 1.9, and for Italy, 1.13. And then you get to like France, UK, you have to be in the 150 plus. But let's say Bitcoin goes up another 13%, which is something we can expect, which means it'll go from 100,000 per coin to 113 per coin. This will put Bitcoin larger than the economy of Italy at 2.2 trillion and will make Bitcoin the 8th largest country, between quotation, by GDP.
Wow.
We're not comparing apples to apples. We are comparing a currency, a digital currency that isn't being used as a fiat currency. It's not a store of value or a means of transaction exchange. It's just a supply demand thing. And we are comparing it to companies that create goods and services that change the world, and to countries on which, history is written, and then like a culture is built, and a way of life is passed through from one generation to another. So do I personally think Bitcoin is very overvalued? I personally think so. Not because, well, I'm a denier of the need for probably a decentralized system that is more robust and the fact that
and the
countries
ledger
can bankrupt itself. I am very skeptic of crypto based off a valuation perspective. I still do not see the value that such tool can provide, Bitcoin as a tool, where I can see, like, the simplest example that comes to mind. Do you think for my personal life, Bitcoin is more valuable than ChatGPT? No. But ChatGPT, OpenAI, the company, is only worth 157 billion. Why is Bitcoin worth 1.9 trillion?
Yeah.
So those are the things I'm thinking of. I'm trying to translate the value and the utility that it has on my everyday, day-to-day life to the monetary value that's being ascribed to it. And honestly, it doesn't add up. I have nothing against Bitcoin, but I do not think it's anything but a bubble, and I would stay away from it.
Yeah, I think it's the first point you made. I think is the ultimate point here. The irony that it's some decentralized source and decentralized currency that is outside the market, outside Wall Street. It's a hedge. It's non-correlated. Like that's all been completely debunked, and even to the point of maximum levels of irony that Wall Street is making more money on this than anybody.
100%.
Billionaires, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know at one point it was like 90% of Bitcoin is owned by like 5 billionaires. It's like, and all of Wall Street. So it's become like anything else on Wall Street. It was supposed to be, and again, the irony is that Wall Street is allowing the story to continue. They're using it as the marketing story that this is anti-Wall Street, when no, Wall Street's making $500 million a year on this thing, just on expense ratios. It's just another tool. And again, I'm not saying this disparagingly, we're just saying this as a fact. Like, it's just another thing. It's not taking over the market. It is simply a tool in the market. It's a tool within the hands of Wall Street professionals and investors to continue making money. And
Yes.
that's how the market works. So the story of decentralization and all that stuff, I think that has been debunked time and time again. It's now just become, it's digital gold. And that there's nothing wrong with that. You can still make money on it. People out there yelling and screaming, saying, look how much money I made on this. Yeah, you can still make money on it. You can make money on a lot of things, but it is pure speculation at this point.
Pure speculation. And I have one more point, if you're
Hit
fine
it.
with that.
Yep.
And because, like, okay, so you spent 30 minutes telling us how it's a bubble without telling us how it's a bubble because you brought us data. So when this bubble explodes, will like the world end, or will we like make money out of it, or like can we make money out of it? And my argument for it, it's also not worth it, because yes, the total market cap of Bitcoin is 1.9 trillion right now. If you compare it to the market cap of the U.S. stock market, which is the investable stock market, 55 trillion, and for the global stock market, it's 84 trillion dollars. So if you take a ratio of like what's 1.9% out of 55 or 83, it's 3.4% or 2.24%. So if the U.S. stock market, in a sense, we're talking Russell 3000, drops by 3.5% in a given week, it means that the whole market value of Bitcoin has been wiped out of the market.
So you're saying if Bitcoin went to zero tomorrow,
yes,
that would be a 3.5% drop in the Russell 3000, essentially.
Yeah, if Bitcoin was a company, was the sixth largest company, and it was a company, and that company went bankrupt, the index would only go down by 3.5%, assuming there's no carryover effect or a domino effect that spreads through the market. But let's make that assumption. So even it's a bubble, because there's no way currency that's used just for trading purposes can be valued that high. But the fact that it might if it disappears, it doesn't leave a big footprint. If everyone transacts with Bitcoin, our whole, like, if you can think of Bitcoin as your credit card and it's as ubiquitous as a credit card, then yes, there would be spillover effects and the impact would be so massive that it would hurt the economy. But yeah, we have seen the market move more than 3.5% in 1 week, and it would wipe those away from the gain, from the value, and then make it back. So although it's a bubble, it's a small bubble compared to the size of the economy, simply because it's just there for trading purposes. It's not really integrated in our day-to-day life where it could create a contagion effect.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think people that are a lot smarter than me, Rabih's here. You're a lot smarter than me. No, but people a lot smarter than me can tell me how it looks for Bitcoin to take over the global currency, or whatever these stories are. I still think Bitcoin has staying power, no question. It's proven that, right? It's proven that to have staying power in the market. I think it'll continue to stay around. I think it can continue to be a thing. But this whole story that it's taking over, I think, again, I just think that's all been debunked at this point. It's just a story that will continue to be out there for people to continue to invest in it, for Wall Street to continue to make a bunch of money on it. But beyond that, it's not a thing. So hopefully we're not getting people too mad at us, Rabih. We'll see. Hopefully we didn't ruin anyone's weekend. So, okay, speaking of that, we had for the second question here. These will be actually quicker. So we wanted to take a little bit more time on Bitcoin. Number 2, what is an accredited investor? This is off the heels of a pretty spicy podcast, Rabih, we released this last week on private equity part 1. I don't know if you listened. You liked it?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Of course.
I've actually had quite a few people reach out. It's always fun when we get these people. I get random text messages. I had a few client calls this week, and it was funny, like how many people brought it up. We got a little spicy on private equity. We have part 2 coming out. But shout out Mike Baird, good friend of the show. He listens quite a bit, and we love Mike. We love Accelerate Dental. They're a great group. And Mike is awesome because he will text me and he will correct me whenever I screw up, which is quite often. And so I truly do appreciate it. And so I thought this would be a good opportunity. We mentioned on the private, I haven't listened back to it, but I know we talked about accredited investor, and Mike corrected me. I guess we misspoke because they've changed some things on what an accredited investor, like the standard is. So I thought would be just an opportunity to correct myself, correct me and Ryan, and share with everyone what is an accredited investor. If you haven't heard of this, the good old Securities Act of 1933, we all know it and love it, right? The Securities Act of 1933, it basically comes from that, where to back up, the SEC basically regulates the public markets, right? And it's to protect the public good when it comes to investing, and there's certain standards you have to meet. And then there's an exemption outlined in the Securities Act of 1933 called Regulation D. And we referenced that in this podcast. But part of Regulation D is they created a standard for accredited investor. Basically, it's saying if you are to be able to invest in these Regulation D private investments, more risky investments, you have to meet, as an individual, certain standards. And so what those standards are as an individual, it's actually relatively straightforward. We just misquoted some of the numbers. I wanted to set the record straight. So as an individual to invest in under Rule 501 of Regulation D, you have to have a net worth exceeding $1 million. That excludes your primary residence. So you cannot count your primary residence. You have to have an annual income as an individual of $200,000 for the past 2 years, or as a filing jointly, $300,000 over the last 2 years, with a reasonable expectation of that in the next or in the current year. So that's really it as an individual. There's a lot of other things like entities, banks, insurance companies, trusts, organizations with assets over 5 million. There's other things that fall under accredited investor, but as the individual to be able to invest in these things, those are the standards. Thank you, Mike Baird, for letting us know that we misquoted. I don't know exactly what we said. I think we misquoted in some way. I think one of the things we probably said was we didn't identify that it's outside of your primary residence. So, Rabih, anything you want to add to this as far as accredited investor?
No, and I think it's a good thing. Just to give you some history, because I'm a nerd about this. The reason there's regulation on a minimum amount of net worth for people to participate in those more complicated products is to help the end investor. Because I kid you not, Robinhood investors would eat it up when you tell them, hey, there's this DSO deal buying a bunch of dental practices. And they probably, have no idea how the industry is run and what it means to make money in the dental industry. So the whole idea of it is to protect investors from money managers that just want to fill the book really quick to flip a deal. And that's why it's in place.
Yeah. Other exemptions here if you're like an investment professional. So if you have like a Series 7, at one point, a lot of us had our Series 7. We've since let that drop off. But that basically just means you've taken a test to be able to transact these things. There's a couple other things like Series 65, whatever. So you don't have to, if you pass those tests, you don't have to have those things. But you're right, Rabih. It's just to protect people, to be able to say, like, you got to know what you're doing, or you got to have the financial backing to like make mistakes in these types of things. So I just wanted to clarify that, make the adjustments, and call ourselves out to say, hey, we misquoted in some way. So truly, thank you, Mike Baird, for calling that out. Any other final things on accredited investor or private investing? You listened to our podcast, so were we too spicy?
I'm assuming you're doing it for the ratings. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not.
No. I know that you guys are communicating your core belief and what you think is the best for clients from a fiduciary perspective.
We did it
It's
for the
not
ratings.
always.
No, that's funny. No, in all honesty, just as far as, so I had a client I talked to last night, and she was like, I was listening, and I was commuting, and I was getting out of my car right as she goes, right as you were starting your rant. Apparently, I had a pretty good rant on there, but that was very heartfelt. It was a very heartfelt rant, Rabih, I will say. And for context, we recorded that a while ago, like as in probably at least a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. It just got released, but it was right off of the heels of something everyone out there, most people are going to know what we're referring to. Some of these private mastermind groups that are just scams. They're just pure scams. And I heard too many stories, personal friends of mine, and luckily no clients, but personal friends and people I knew or friends of friends, in the dental space. And it honestly, just, I think it was our frustration, in particular my frustration coming out of just how frustrating it is to have these conversations over and over and over again with people. We talk to hundreds of dentists all over the country, and to have them so easily believe a story that is so obviously a scam, and then to see those things come out that they are proven to be scams, it just kind of made us frustrated. But frustration from a place of care,
Yes,
for clients and for dentists out there, just be like, please, just
can
be
do
smarter.
better.
We can do better. Be smarter about this. So I will do better about not getting so spicy on podcasts, but maybe it helps our ratings. I don't know. Okay, last thing here. Wanted to talk about FinCen/BOI. Is it even a thing anymore? So also, this came from a client call earlier this week. We were talking as our year-end meetings come up, and we were talking about FinCen BOI. Shout out Zach. He was like, "Hey, did you actually see yesterday?" So this was on December 3rd. There was a Texas court. Crap, I just had it up. A Texas court filed an injunction to stop this FinCen BOI. So I guess to back up, FinCen is the financial crimes unit of the government. They had this Transparency Act passed through Congress that basically had FinCen require any LLC, anyone who's filed an LLC, to file what's called a business ownership information report. And it was not arduous. It was not a big deal, 5-10 minutes, but everyone had to do it. And what they were threatening was a $500 a day fine starting January 1 of 2025 if you did not do it. Well, of course, Rabih, it always seems like it's Texas. Why is it always Texas that's doing this, right? Texas, there was a Texas court who issues a preliminary injunction to stop this, basically saying it was unconstitutional. Same thing that they did. I don't think it was the same court, but it was also in Texas that stopped the SAVE plan and put a big stop to that and caused some issues there. So same thing. So basically where we're at right now is we're just waiting. We're basically just waiting for that to go through the process of the courts. I would imagine there's going to be a big fight back and forth for several months. As of right now, it's just what they call it's stayed. It's basically stayed. There's nothing happening with this until they figure it out. So more to come. If you're worried about it, I'm sure there's going to be some information listed on the FinCen website here soon, if not already. But right now, there's just not. It's literally at a pause. There's nothing to be done right now.
So
no
people don't have
worries
to
about
file
it.
anymore?
As far as I'm reading, no. It's completely paused, that you don't have to worry about it. If you already have filed, awesome, great. I don't think it's a big deal. If you still want to go file, I'm sure you can if the website's even still active right now. But as of right now, it's paused.
Oh, what will the government do without the $500 a day?
Well, I always thought this was kind of interesting because I'm like, wait a second, you already have this information. Like, if I set up an LLC, I'm setting it up through the government. Like, the government because all they're asking for is like your EIN, of which the government issues your EIN. They ask for your driver's license, of which the government issues your driver's license, and then a couple of other things. But so I never fully understood. I mean, the whole point of it, the whole point of it is to stop financial crimes. So I'm not sitting here saying I understand like the intricacies of what they're trying to do, but it just feels like they're asking for information they already had. It just kind of seems interesting to me, but Anyway, as of now, it's at a pause. So don't worry about it until more information to come, of which I'm sure we will cover on the show. Which we all know every dentist out there, Rabih, is getting all their information basically from you. I'm also here, but basically from you. From 2 cents.
Not.
Well, hopefully not. Okay. That was fun, Rabih. Thank you for being here. We mentioned at the beginning, we mentioned Rabih just wrecking me in my videos, which, by the way, Michelle made me do the selfie video promoting our podcast. But we are up for Best Dental Podcast. So if you go to Instagram, our Instagram, Dentist Advisors Instagram, the information's all there. You can go on. If you like the show, don't do it if you don't like it. But if you do and you think we are worthy of a vote, go on there, vote. We are under the Dentist Money Show. So go vote. That'd be awesome. We really would appreciate it. The same thing. If you are enjoying the show, please share it. Please go on anywhere that wherever you're listening to this, give us a rating, give us a comment. We would love it. If you want us to cover something on the show, let us know. And then, of course, if you want to talk to us, dentistadvisors.com. Click on the yellow book free consultation button. We appreciate you for listening. Rabih, as always, thanks for being here. That was our 2 cents. Till next time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.